Greetings, humans. Welcome back to Sci-Fi Punks, where we like to talk all things sci-fi. And today I want to make a list of my personal favorite villains in all of sci-fi. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always been all about the bad guys. The bad guys are always way cooler than the good guys. Going back to Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Transformers. I have a Decepticon tattoo on my chest because I am that much of a cool person. Starting things off, though, I want to give a special mention, an honorable mention to Burke from the movie Aliens, played by Paul Reiser. He doesn't make the list, or he's at number 11, because he's not really a villain. He's not really the villain of the movie Aliens. You don't really find out that he has any villainous intent until like 3/4 of the way through the movie, and then he gets killed off like right after that. So he's not really a true villain, but Paul Reiser plays him in such a great way. He does such a good job at making you hate this character. He's such a corporate, smimey bastard, and you just really hope he dies when you're watching the movie. And so he gets honorable mention. Okay, but on to the real list. At number 10, I want to put Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the character Thanos. Why do I like Thanos? Well, I'm not a big Marvel guy. I don't hate the movies or anything, but I don't really love them either. They're just they're entertaining. But I have to admit that they knocked it out of the park with the character Thanos. You can tell they really were trying to make a good villain, like that. They got their army of writers into one room, and their project for like 1 week was think of a really good way to make Thanos interesting. And then they did. Like, it worked. They got what they paid for with this one, because he is cool. He just has a lot of conviction when he's doing. He does not think he's wrong. He just believes he's in the right so deeply to his core. He gets a lot of joy out of the idea that he's just doing the right thing. My favorite moment in basically the entire MCU is a part where his daughter Gamora confronts him and says, like, "Oh, you're a bastard. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing." And Thanos explains, "Look, the galaxy is overpopulated. We need to kill off half the population. Otherwise, there's just not going to be enough resources to sustain itself. And then everybody's going to die. This needs to be done." And then Gamora replies, "You don't know that." Like, that's what she says to him. And then he replies, "I'm the only one who knows that." And that's a great line. It just really sums up his character. He believes he's right, and he doesn't care if he's the only person. He just knows it's true. Whether or not you agree with him or not, they sell the character really well. So yeah, I think that he just makes for a really cool bad guy, really interesting character that really elevated the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At number 9, I want to put Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving in the Matrix trilogy, or at least in the original 3 Matrix movies. He's a cool bad guy. His concept's really interesting. This computer program that works for the great simulation that everybody's living in. He's an agent of the Matrix. That's really interesting concept, and he's played very menacingly by Hugo Weaving. It's the smell. He just has a lot of great lines that he just drops like that. They give him some complexity later on in the movie when they reveal that he has his own agenda, he has his own wants and needs, and he's not happy with his place in the universe anymore. Just interesting stuff, cool sci-fi that's implied with Agent Smith. So yeah, Hugo Weaving, great job. I really like Agent Smith. He's great on screen. He kind of gets shafted a little bit in the second 2 Matrix movies, but overall, Hugo Weaving plays his character with a lot of dignity and just really brings us all into the role. And so, yeah, Agent Smith at number 9. Number 8 is Venom from just Spider-Man, the Spider-Man comics. Now, I'm not a huge comic book guy. I have read, a fair share when I was a kid, but I don't follow them, and I don't know what's going on with the character Venom for the last, 20 years or so. But the original Venom, the Eddie Brock Venom that was introduced to us in the late 80s and the early 90s, that character, that's what I'm talking about. I think he's just cool. Basically, it's a cool science fiction concept. You have this organism from outer space that bonds with a human host. They become this one entity. They're 2 entities at the same time bonded together. And the symbiote falls in love with its host. It consumes Peter Parker and becomes his new spider suit. And then it starts to fall in love with Peter Parker. And then when Peter Parker starts to realize like what's going on, that this is a living creature, he rejects it. He's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this weird shit. So he rejects the symbiote. And then the symbiote is so heartbroken by this rejection that it meets up with the only other person that hates Peter Parker as much as it does, and that's Eddie Brock. And then together they make Venom. And then Venom is these two different entities that have come together in their hatred of Peter Parker, and then they go after him. That's just a cool concept for a bad guy. It's also pretty cool science fiction, like an alien suit that you wear that falls in love with you and gives you superpowers and stuff. One of the standards I hold all my villains to is they need to look cool. They need to have something interesting about them aesthetic-wise. And Venom is cream of the crop. I mean, like a big maw, those crazy jaws, just like the tongue and everything. Like when I was a kid, I remember seeing images of Venom. Like when I'd go into a coffee shop with my dad, and I would be like, I was like 6 years old, and I'd flip through the magazines, and I'd just see a picture of Venom, just like whatever. And it would just scare me so much. I was like, who is this guy? So yeah, Venom, he gets to make the list at number 8. At number 7, we have the T-1000, played by Robert Patrick in the film Terminator 2. So there's always that debate, which villainous Terminator is better, Arnold Schwarzenegger or Robert Patrick's Terminator? Which one is the cooler, the more menacing bad guy? And I honestly think that the T-1000 is a bit scarier as a bad guy than the T-800 played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, because the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator is just like a big, tank. But Robert Patrick's T-1000 is more sly. He's like a cat. You also kind of get a sense that there is some sort of sentience to him, that he's not fully sentient, but there's just a little bit of it there that makes him more menacing than Arnold Schwarzenegger as the bad guy. So I've just always loved this character. He's cool looking. The liquid metal thing is really interesting for the time. That was just really cool. And you really do get the sense that despite the fact that he's not as big and as strong looking as Arnold Schwarzenegger, they really make you believe that he is a more powerful robot. So yeah, at number 7, it's the T-1000. Okay, so at number 6, we got Clarence Boddicker from the movie RoboCop, played by Kurtwood Smith, better known as Ren from That 70s Show. Yeah, like, he's not like a big tough bad guy. He's not like a superhero, or he doesn't have any crazy powers. He's just a guy, but he's just so badass. Like, I love, like, half the reason why I love RoboCop, and I love RoboCop, but like a good chunk of the reason is because of this character, Clarence Boddicker. He is just so cool. He's just such a bastard. Like, he's got the best line, "Bitches leave." Okay, so at number 5, we've got Frieza from the Dragon Ball Z franchise, or from the Dragon Ball Z anime. Yeah, because in my opinion, Dragon Ball Z is very much science fiction. I don't care that it's animated. Think it's sci-fi. I don't see any reason why it would not be. So yeah, Frieza. I love this character. He's not complex or anything like that, but the show just goes out of its way to sell you on the idea that he is the most badass person in the entire galaxy. He is the emperor of the known universe, and he is that way because he is just the most powerful being that anybody knows about. And he knows it. He's prideful, he's pompous, he's regal, he's even a little bit effeminate. And all of those things make him so cool because he finally gets humbled by Goku, this like lower class warrior that gets powered up, becomes a Super Saiyan, totally kicks Frieza's ass, and Frieza's just knocked down from this super high pedestal to just into the dirt. The whole story, the whole arc takes place over like the course of like, I don't know, 1 hour, but they somehow stretch it out for like 60 episodes. I just got finished watching the whole Frieza saga with my girlfriend, and she liked it for the most part, but she did get a little frustrated with how tedious the show ends up getting, with how long it just stretches things out. But it makes the impact of Frieza's fall from grace all that much more interesting because it did take such a long, painful amount of time. I don't really recommend anybody watch it that way, but because you can watch shorter versions of the show now, they've condensed the show. That's how you should probably watch it, honestly, but it's still cool to see. Anyway, so yeah, Frieza gets the number 5 spot. So for number 4, I want to get a little pretentious and pick Frankenstein's monster from the original Frankenstein novel written by Mary Shelley. Frankenstein is definitely science fiction. I think most people agree with that. It was some people consider it to be the first science fiction novel ever written. I think that's probably accurate. The Frankenstein monster is a really cool villain. There is some debate as to whether or not he can really be considered a villain, because the book really makes you sympathize with him. You really understand why the monster ends up the way that it does. The world just rejects him. His own creator rejects him, and he's left alone to just deal with the hatred of humanity. And so he turns into just like this total villainous bastard. And he's a villain because like he kills children eventually. Like no matter what his past is, it doesn't really justify the actions he takes later on. So he's definitely a villain in my opinion, and a really cool villain. The book is just really beautiful in how it portrays like his isolation. His feelings of sorrow are so deep that he hates his creator and wants to make him feel the same pain, especially after Dr. Frankenstein declines his request to build a female for him. He just really just becomes so filled with hatred and malice. And Frankenstein's an epic story. Like if you've never read it before, it's cool. It's a really, really cool book. It's one of my absolute favorite books ever. So yeah, anyways, the Frankenstein monster at number 4. Okay, at number 3, we got another cartoon choice from me, and that is Megatron, the original Megatron from the G1 Transformers cartoon back in the 80s, and especially how he's portrayed in the Transformers movie from the 80s. That Megatron, I don't know. It's probably just all nostalgia for me. Transformers is one of my favorite things ever. I grew up watching it as a kid, and there's not much to say about Megatron. He's just like the big bad Decepticon bad guy. He's just the leader of the bad guys in a children's cartoon. But the way he's portrayed by Frank Welker, his voice is great. He's just, especially in that cartoon movie, he has so much menace. He's pretty scary. One of the things I'll say about Megatron is the reason why he seems to have endured in the pop culture discourse, the reason why people still talk about Megatron more than the other bad guys from the cartoons in the 80s. Like nobody really cares about Skeletor anymore, or the Shredder, or anything like that. And the reason for that is that the Transformers TV show never really made Megatron a goofy idiot. Yeah, there's some moments here and there where he gets like foiled, and like, there's some funny moments with Megatron, but he's not a total idiot. They try to make him have some dignity throughout the entire show. So we have a bit more respect for Megatron in our memories in a way. I don't know. So I just like Megatron. His design is fantastic. It's one of my favorite designs of any character. I know I'm just kind of speaking through nostalgia about this one, but I have to give it to Megatron at number 3. For the number 2 spot, I'm going to pick Baron Harkonnen from the Dune novel by Frank Herbert. I'm talking about specifically the book version of Baron Harkonnen because I like the Denis Villeneuve Dune movies, and I even kind of like the David Lynch Dune film. But for me, neither of them have really nailed Baron Harkonnen. Because in the book, the way that he's depicted to me is like the complete height of excess and gluttony. To me, he is supposed to be so grotesque that he shouldn't even be able to exist in our world as we know it. Like he should basically be a monster. I kind of was hoping that when Denis Villeneuve came along to create a Dune movie, he was going to give us a really just gross monster of a person, because to me that's the way the book depicts Baron Harkonnen. He just seems like that to me. He's just so he's just so utterly revolting. And in Denis Villeneuve's movie, he's pretty cool. Like he is, like they do a good job with the Baron Harkonnen, but he is just kind of a big fat guy. Like he's not a monster, he's just like kind of like your fat uncle. And the same thing goes. The Lynch movie is a little bit closer to what I was kind of hoping we'd get, but he's too wacky, He's also not fat enough. I was kind of hoping we'd get a version of a person that shouldn't even be able to live without, like, future technology. He's that obese, just something crazy. Basically like a Jabba the Hutt sort of thing. But we haven't gotten that in the movies, so when I read the original Dune novel, that's what I picture. It's just this monstrosity of a person. And everything about him is that his personality and his appearance is just like this personification of utter gluttony and just revolting excess. So yeah, at the number 2 spot on my list of my favorite science fiction villains, I'm putting Baron Harkonnen. Okay, so for the number one spot, this one's really easy. I knew it right when I decided to make this list. This is going to get the number one spot, and I'm pretty sure most people are going to agree with me. It is Darth Vader, from Star Wars. Darth Vader, there's not much I can say about Darth Vader except for the fact that I am talking about the way he is portrayed in the original trilogy. I am not a fan of the Anakin Skywalker backstory that we got in the prequels. I don't like it. I don't like what they did. In my opinion, it's not even implied that that's what happened when you're watching the original trilogy. I don't believe that he was this lovesick loser that ended up becoming an evil cyborg person because he just loved some girl so much. I don't like that backstory. I don't like the Chosen One backstory. In the original trilogy, he's just like this thug that works for the Emperor. He is a high-ranking thug, and he has this cool backstory about being this Jedi that fell from grace, but that's about it. He's just like this Jedi that turned evil and became a thug for the Empire. That's cooler to me, and you have that whole history with his son, and it's done really well, especially when it wraps up in Return of the Jedi. I don't care about any of that prequel stuff. I really do like the story of Darth Vader and his redemption at the very end of the final movie, or at the end of Return of the Jedi. So yeah, Darth Vader gets the number one spot. So that's been my list. If you don't agree with me, I would love to hear from you. But that's all for today. All hail Megatron.